What are you doing in my swamp?
Hello everybody, this is Ogre Boy, and I'm going to be doing my review for the new movie, Freakier Friday. So this is the highly anticipated sequel to the 2003 family comedy classic, Freaky Friday, which starred Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis, and they're once again back in this movie. And in this movie, years after Tess and Anna endured an identity crisis, Anna now has a daughter of her own and a soon-to-be stepdaughter. As they navigate the myriad challenges that come when two families merge, Tess and Anna discover lightning might indeed strike twice. So, I think this is a pretty decent sequel. I really am gotta say, I'm not very disappointed with this movie. I went in with the expectations that it was gonna be fun and everything, maybe not as good as the first one, but still a decent enough time, and I got exactly what I wanted out of it and everything. Once again, Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan are excellent as Tess and Anna. They are great, and they step right back in their roles like they never left them and everything. It was awesome seeing them together again, and just getting to see Lindsay Lohan on the big screen again was great and everything. She was one of my first crushes as a kid and one of my favorite actresses and everything. So getting to see her back on the big screen and stuff was just awesome and everything. I've been rooting for her to come back for years, and I hope that this movie will be the first of many that we get to see her on the big screen. She's already kind of made a comeback to acting as far as doing Netflix movies and stuff. And this movie isn't anything mind-blowing. It's not gonna be like a game changer for her career or anything, but it's great getting to see her back and stuff, and I hope that we get to see her on the big screen more. Again, Jamie Lee Curtis is just, once again, absolutely hilarious in this movie. I don't think she was quite as funny as she was in the first one and everything, but a lot of that is to do with the humor, and I'll talk about that more. But she was still really funny, and it was great having her back too, and seeing them together again was great. Their chemistry is still spot on perfect and everything, and I love the way their relationship is in this movie. It's they're in a lot better place than they were in the first movie and everything. They're not arguing the whole time and everything, and you just kind of enjoy that and everything. Julia Butters as Harper, who is Anna's daughter. She is really, really likable and stuff, and her chemistry with Lindsay Lohan is really good. They're really believable as mother and daughter and everything. I hope that we get to see her in Freakier Friday whenever that movie happens and everything. I loved her and everything. And Sophia Hammonds is Lily, who's the stepsister, or fixing to be stepsister and everything. She's really good. Her and Harper don't really see eye to eye and everything. That they kind of don't like each other and everything, and that's kind of the whole plot of the movie, is they're trying to come together and stuff and accept each other and everything, and that's kind of their journey, their character journey and stuff. And I think it's really well written and everything, and I think that Harper and Lily are very welcome additions to the Freaky Friday world and stuff. I really like them and everything. And I also feel like their chemistry with Jamie Lee Curtis is really good too and everything. I think all four of these actresses work really great together and everything. And then you got Manny DeCito, who plays Eric, who is a new character. He's Lindsay Lohan's new love interest and everything, and the man that she's going to be getting married to, and Lily's dad and stuff. And he is a very, very likable character, just like Mark Hammon's character, Ryan, was and everything. He was a very likable character in the first movie, and he's back here too. He doesn't really do much and everything. He's kind of there, but he's still really likable and stuff, and his chemistry with Jamie Lee Curtis is still really great and everything. And I just love that, like, in an era where they try to dumb down the guys and everything in movies nowadays, especially in comedies, they try to dumb them down and make them act like idiots and not very likable and stuff. They did a great job with this movie, making them very likable characters that you want to see. They really make you want to see Anna with Eric and everything, and it works really, really good and everything. I really like that and everything. I think he's a really likable character, and the dynamic between all the actresses is great. They all work really well off of each other and everything. There's some really, really funny moments and stuff throughout the movie and everything, and they all work great together. But what really makes this movie so good and everything, aside from just getting to see these characters again, it was really nice. I've always loved the characters of Freaky Friday because it's always been one of my favorite movies ever since I was a kid and everything. One of my favorite Disney movies of the early 2000s and stuff. Goes far to say, like, they've remade a lot of movies from the 60s and 70s throughout my childhood, like Parent Trap, Blubber, and stuff. I'd go as far as say Freaky Friday might be my favorite from that era of Disney remakes and stuff, which people always say that Disney has only been doing these remakes since the live action ones have started, but they've been doing them my entire life and everything. Angels in the Outfield was a remake, Flubber was a remake, Parent Trap, this one, there's a lot of them. So I mean, I'm not complaining and stuff and everything. And I think this was a really good sequel. But one of the things I absolutely love about this movie and everything that differentiates it from the first one is Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis are in the movie together throughout the whole movie and everything. And since Lindsay Lohan's character isn't a teenager anymore and everything, she gets to be with Jamie Lee Curtis throughout the whole movie and everything, and I love that aspect of it. It's just getting to see these two play off of each other through the whole movie, even though they're not playing their main characters the entire time, because they're playing the daughters and stuff throughout most of the movie, but their dynamic is really, really good and believable and stuff, and I really love that and everything. So it was cool getting to see them together again and in the whole movie together and everything, because they had a lot of scenes in the original one where they were apart and everything, having to live each other's lives and stuff, which works really good and stuff. But I'm glad they didn't really rehash everything. There are some things that are a little bit rehashed, but nothing that was too bad. I mean, it has a lot of the same story beats as the original Freaky Friday, but not in a way that really discredits the movie and everything. It doesn't feel like a rinse, wash, and repeat of the original and everything. So there are things that's the stuff I really like about it, and it has tons of heart and everything. There's some really heartfelt and emotional moments in here, just like in the original, if not more. In some ways, I think that it got a little bit more emotional than the original did at times and everything, and I really like that. Everything. And there's an actress in here that is associated with Lindsay Lohan because she was in The Parent Trap, and it was awesome getting to see her in this movie and everything. I don't want to spoil who it is, but it was awesome getting to see her in here. She's just a small role, but it was awesome getting to see her reunite with Lindsay Lohan too and everything. As a lifelong fan of Lindsay Lohan, that was pretty dang awesome and everything. But as far as negatives go, I do have a little bit. The humor isn't as strong this time around and everything. There's a lot of jokes about how old Jamie Lee Curtis is and everything, and she's a good sport and everything. I've always loved her self-aware humor and stuff and everything, but they overplay some of the jokes. Like, they really try to recreate the like the Crypt Keeper scene from the original, which is one of the funniest scenes in the movie and everything. And there were some really funny ones, because she goes over and over again about how old she is and is insulting herself for they do it for a couple minutes straight, and it's we get it, you're old and everything. It's really, some of it is really funny, and some of them are just it didn't hit as well as it could have, but none of them really hit as well as the Crypt Keeper thing and everything. But the jokes about her being old, it kind of played out throughout the movie and everything, and it just wasn't as funny as it could have been and everything. But there were some really funny ones, but there also were some that just didn't land and everything. They weren't offensive or anything like that, and I do like that there are some jokes in here that you wouldn't expect for a family movie, especially nowadays and everything. So I like that they kind of did play it risky a little bit in some of the humor though. But I just felt like the humor in this movie just was not near as strong as the first one and everything. I might get a lot of hate for this, but I love Chad Michael Murray, and I love his character Jake from the first movie, but I don't feel like he really fit into this story. I kind of wish that he wasn't, and I know they wanted to bring him back because he was a fan favorite character in the original and everything, and Chad Michael Murray was awesome back in the 2000s. He was a very underrated actor. I've always really liked him and everything. He was one of those pretty boy actors that I don't think really got the credit. He never made it as big as some of the other ones and everything, but I know a lot of people have always loved him and stuff and everything, and I've always liked him too. I loved One Tree Hill and a Cinderella Story, and those were the main ones that I watched besides this one as a kid, but I always liked him and everything, and it was great seeing him back and everything. It was awesome getting to see him in a movie again, but I just don't feel like his character fit into the story and everything. I kind of wish that he wasn't in it in some ways, or if he was, just to have a cameo and not as big of a part as he was in it. But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying anything against him, because he was fine in the movie. His performance was fine and everything like that. It's not anything against him personally. And another negative I have is the songs in this movie are not near as good in here as they were in the original movie. The first movie had a couple of really, really awesome bangers with Take Me Away, which is repeated in this movie, and then Ultimate, which they do have a new version of it in the credits, and that version is okay and everything. But I feel like the songs in this movie are not as good. There's a song that Anna sings and stuff that called The Baby, which that song was okay. It's just kind of too slow for me and everything. I like a more upbeat pop song and everything. It just, I don't really feel like it fit the movie as well. And I didn't think the songs were near as good in this one as they were the original. It was cool getting to see Pink Slip and some of the other side characters from the original back in here. They don't really do much, but it was just nice getting to see them and everything. The ladies from the Chinese restaurant were in here, and I don't think Harry was in here though, and his little brother. I think they actually just completely admitted him, which I was kind of disappointed on that too, but maybe they didn't want to recast him or something. Maybe he didn't want to come back, I don't know. And if he was in it, I just totally missed him, or didn't recognize him. But I did wish that he was in here, and I wish that the grandpa could have been in here, but the actor who played him, Elliot Gould, had passed away and everything, so obviously he wasn't in here. I wish I would have kind of done some kind of tribute to him, because he was always one of my favorite characters of the original and everything. I just always found him really amusing and everything, but yeah, and I feel like they shouldn't have used the song Take Me Away. They use it again at the end of this movie and everything, and that was one of the things that I felt like they were trying too hard to pull on the nostalgia strings and stuff by using that song again, and it just didn't work for me. Like a lot of times stuff like that will, but it just didn't for me. I was like, I love that song and everything. I wouldn't have minded it being in the movie, but the way they just reused it at the end of this movie just didn't work as well as it could have, and it didn't hit that emotional beat that I was kind of thinking it might have and stuff. I think they should have just used either an original song for the movie or just a different song in general, because Take Me Away wasn't even an original song written for the movie like I thought it was. I just learned that here recently, that song wasn't even written for the movie. It was a song that had been out for a couple years before the movie came out and everything, but I do like that song and everything. I don't mind that it's in here, but I just kind of feel like they wasted an opportunity. They could have gave us a really awesome new banger and stuff from Pink Slip instead of just reusing the same song and everything. But aside from those little negatives, I really enjoyed this movie. I wouldn't say it's one of the best movies of the year or anything, but it was a satisfying sequel and everything. I was, for the most part, satisfied with that. I think the humor could have been a little bit better, but that's also just, humor nowadays is a lot different than it was back in the early 2000s and stuff. Most comedy movies aren't going to be as good and stuff, so and everything. But as far as long-awaited sequels go, this is definitely a pretty good one. I don't know if I'd say it's one of the best or anything, but I wouldn't say it's one of the worst either. It's just somewhere in the middle ground of long-awaited sequels. I've seen other ones that I've really enjoyed way more than this one and everything, but I thought it was good enough and everything. So all in all, Freakier Friday is a pretty good movie. Definitely not as good as the first one was and everything, but I didn't expect it to be. I went in with the expectations that it wouldn't be as good as the first and everything, and I didn't really come out that disappointed. Like I said, the only thing I was a little disappointed on was I think the humor could have been a little bit better That's really it. And aside from that, it's a really fun time, and if you're a fan of the original, I think you're going to like it. It doesn't rely too heavily on nostalgia, but it does hit those beats when it needs to, and everything. And there are some really funny moments. A lot of the funniest moments were in the trailers. I think that's another thing that disappointed me, was the trailers did show way too much, and I saw way too much marketing for this movie and everything, and I think that kind of took my enjoyment out of it a little bit. But all in all, it was a really good time and everything, and I like it enough and everything. So I'm gonna say I give Freakier Friday a 7.5 out of 10. It's a really fun movie and a solid sequel and everything. So let me know in the comments what you think of this movie, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good day, everybody.